Hello, and welcome to The Mandalorian Episode 1. My name is David Snipes from 7poundbag.com. Make sure you hit the website and all this other good fun stuff. And Disney Plus is out, as I'm sure you're all aware of. And after a bit of a rough start, seems to be exploding, to tell you the truth. Kind of surprised. But then again, with all the content that they've got, I'm not surprised. Uh, I do kind of find it funny, everybody hollering and screaming about all the Disney stuff on there. Nobody's really saying a word about National Geographic because nobody cares, and nobody's really saying anything about The Simpsons. It's all about It's tell you the truth, it's all Star Wars. It's all Marvel, which is kind of interesting. But I guess you kind of saw that coming. But yeah, in case you are wondering, though, Brain Games is on the National Geographic topic, and I mean, that's a good show to watch. To tell you the truth, I love Brain Games. But anyway, let's see here or there. Y'all don't care about that. Y'all are here about The Mandalorian, our big Star Wars series. And I'm going to try, depending on how this kind of gets reviewed, I'm going to try to hit every episode. This is going to be episode 1. I am going to give you spoiler tags before we start getting really into spoilers, as I do have some thoughts on it. Just finished episode 1. Watched, of course, my usual YouTube videos of it with the Easter eggs and all the other stuff like that. Just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Uh, a lot of the Easter egg videos that I'm seeing, though, kind of ignorant, to tell you the truth. It's like, well, obviously that, obviously that, obviously that. To me, it's Easter egg stuff you don't really see. Now, let me give you a little bit of backstory as far as my Star Wars fandom is. I was born in 1973, because yes, I'm old. And I saw 2 and 3 in the theater. I was one of the, or excuse me, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi in theater. Waited outside for Return of the Jedi with my mom, like the first weekend after it came out. Yes, lines around the building. I still remember those days. Uh, I actually camped out for episode 1 with a few of my coworkers. Got to see that opening night. Got to see episode 2 opening night. Lines weren't nearly as long. Saw episode 3 not long after it came out. Took my kids to go see uh, what 3.5, I think is what it ended up being. But I enjoyed it all. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a big fan of the series. I can see some good things about the first part. I have major issues with with the, I guess, the original trilogy, I guess you could say, or episode 1, 2, 3 trilogy, I guess you could say, which I may do a video on that later just for the heck of it. Uh, but I have not. Last Jedi, yeah, okay, but I guess you could say the Abrams trilogy. I'm I'm not overly enthused. The First Order seems ignorant. Everything seems to be retreaded. I've still yet to see Solo, a Star Wars story, just because I'm kind of waiting for my son to come over and watch it. Figured we'd watch it together, but he's not really chomping at the bit to do it. And tell you the truth, neither am I. I'll probably end up watching it. Clone Wars, I saw maybe the first half of the first season. I wasn't that impressed. Stopped watching it. Part of my problem with shows like that, when you have Jedi's and they're such magical, pretty much immortal creatures, to put them in harm's way is a little hard to do. It's kind of like, it's kind of like a Superman movie. You've got to be either very talented and very good, or you've got to have characters that, have that magic flaw, so to speak, to really do it well. And Jedi's are hard to do, especially when you get 4 or 5 of them together. So, but anyway, but let's talk about The Mandalorian. Again, I just watched the first episode, and I want to look at it to one of two ways. On its own, if this was not a Star Wars show, would I be excited about episode 2? And I want you to think about that while I kind of give a quick breakdown of the series so far. So we start out with a cantina because it's Star Wars. And yes, the guy's speaking Hadith. Nobody cares. But everybody seems to love that. Oh, look what the dude's talking. They're basically, you got these bar bullies bullying a guy. They're talking about cutting him up and selling his parts, which I still find incredible that, obviously intelligent being, you're going to cut them up and sell them up for parts. I just kind of wonder how that works, to tell you the truth. I mean, the whole meet is murder we got going on here, but yet they're obvious, sentient, intelligent life. I mean, these things aren't exactly cows. Mandalorian shows up. Obviously, they start picking on him, which is absolutely stupid. Makes no sense to me. I kind of have an issue right off the word go because if you're already torturing some dude and you're like the baddest gang in the bar and something walks in full battle armor, and it's expensive battle armor apparently from everything that I've read, and it's kind of recognizable that this dude is automatically a badass. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's kind of like if I'm sitting there with a bunch of my friends and we're picking on some dude that just happens to show up, and somebody walks in, that looks like The Rock and he's got a special forces jacket on. I don't think I'm going to stop what I'm doing just to pick on this dude. It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially if you're in a planet where there's basically no law. I mean, it's like the cops are going to come in and save you. So the bar fight breaks out. Mandalorian obviously whoops everybody's ass because, it's his name on the show. And come to find out that as the weakling guy is thanking him, oh no, you're actually got a bounty on you. So we find out that the Mandalorian's a bounty hunter. And he takes the guy back. Pretty good series, pretty good show so far. Takes the guy back, turns in the bounty, says, yeah, this is what I've got. And then we get this super secret mission because it can't just be a regular bounty. Anyway, but still, I mean, Carl Weathers is in it, so I can't complain about that. I love Carl Weathers. Still waiting for Action Jackson 2. So we get this whole rigmarole about him getting this bounty and about how it's all special. We finally get actually like a placement where this thing is. Yes, if you read about it, you know where it's coming from. But now we actually get to like put the pieces in where this actually fits in with the movie. This is like a couple of years after Return of the Jedi. So we actually have a timeline, but we're not to episode 7 yet. So at least now we know about where we're at. So we don't have this first order crap, but we do know that the Empire's fallen. So then he starts going after our I guess you could say our MacGuffin maybe for the first episode. But along the way, of course, you've got to have a little bit of comedy. And they keep talking about how the Mandalorian, how he's so impressive, about how he's so badass, about how, he's the most expensive but the most efficient bounty hunter in the galaxy. And then when he gets on the planet, he basically gets taken out by a cow. I guess a cow / hippo / horse combo. It's these two-legged creatures that basically you have to ride these things to get anywhere on this planet. And he's basically taken out by one of them, and he's saved by Nick Nolte, which is sad, which makes me think, okay, this dude's not that impressive. I mean, yeah, he's on a strange planet, but, if you're Captain Badass, how are you getting taken out by a hippo cow? Just doesn't make any sense to me. And then, of course, he's got to show that he's kind of useless when he learns to try to ride these things. And then all of a sudden he masters it, and everybody's fat, dumb, and happy. And then we get the big scene at the end where he's taking on the little, I guess, the MacGuffin's stronghold. And he's saved by a robot, again, making him look weaker. The robot's a badass, again, making him look even more weak. And he's shot again. One thing I don't understand about it is this Mandalorian armor is all that kind of impressive. Boba Fett got taken out by a boat paddle. So the armor can't be that daggone impressive, but he's been shot twice. But thankfully, just because it's Star Wars, he's been hit in the shoulder twice, which is ignorant. Everybody else, this thing's shooting center mass. I mean, it is all center mass shots. These things are all dead. Him, twice in the shoulder, no big deal. And there's no like repercussions for that. The blasters just kind of bounce off of it. And I'm sitting there thinking, this just doesn't make any sense. But that's neither here nor there. So finally they're able to get into the stronghold. I'm going to kind of end there for the spoilers type thing. But let's circle around to the big question. If this was not a Star Wars story, would I care about episode 2? Yeah, but I wouldn't be chomping at the bit to go get it. There's enough in the background that I care about. Some of the little quote-unquote Easter eggs, like the thing from Jabba's palace is sitting there on a spit. There's one of the things that's caught in the bounty hunters in Carbonite where they're transporting his bounties back. Looks like Greedo, or at least as a member of his race. The thing at the end that I'm going to come around and talk to. All that's really interesting, but if I didn't have prior history with that stuff, would I care so much? Not really. If these were just things I didn't recognize, like if this was, The Mandalorian was based on Dune or something, which is also a big, huge sci-fi thing that I've never seen the movie, never read the book, I wouldn't care. I'd probably watch episode 2 just because it's out there and it's supposed to be all kind of impressive. But it's not something that's like appointment television. Like I'm not chomping at the bit for episode 2. I'll probably end up watching that early next week. I plan on release things every Saturday, in case you're wondering. Just so, just kind of break it up. But I'm just not that, like I said, I'm hoping it gets better. I'm hoping it gets well to it. But again, I'm already centered on a magical creature who's been shot twice. Nobody in Star Wars has ever been shot and survived. This dude's got it done twice. He's got this magical armor, which, again, is like overly expensive. He's got this ship where apparently these 4 bounties that he's got, these 4 lives that he's captured, he barely got paid enough to cover for his gas. And yet he gets taken out by a hippocow. It just, there's, this giant with feet of clay, and it's not that good a look. It's not that impressive. It's kind of like having a clumsy Jedi who can't stand on her own feet. I would feel much better if he started out as a badass bounty hunter and something happened where he lost his armor, he lost his weapons, he had to basically use his wits to survive, kind of like the whole Han Solo arc, to be quite honest with you. But no, he's just a badass, and he can, everybody else is missing all around him because they're basically stormtroopers, and he's able to wing a guy at 100 feet and kill him off a building because nobody knows how to shoot from cover but him. He's able to take out it just, like I said, it's just not a good look. I don't need an immortal hero. I don't need a superhero in this series, And everybody talks about how badass the Mandalorians are. This dude's not that impressive. He's supposed to be the biggest and baddest. Oh, I just don't see it. So no, I'm not that impressed with the first episode. Not that impressed with the hero. Of course, I love, Pablo Pascal. I can't wait to see what he's able to do with it. And hopefully now that the setup's over, maybe we get a good chase scene. Maybe we get something good going on. Maybe we get something other than look at this magical alien world that we've crafted in the Star Wars universe. Because to tell you the truth, that's not that big of a selling point. It was back in the day, but now we've got 3 extra movies for the Lucas second trilogy. We've got the new trilogy coming out. We've had 2 less than successful movies. We've actually had Solo, which most people consider a bomb, considering its expectations. We've had that come out. The bloom is off the rose. You've got to do something with this. You've got to have something that makes Star Wars seem like a magical title on it. You can't just crank out whatever and make money off of it. At least in America, the market's just too cluttered for that. The market is just there's not room enough for it. I mean, look at the latest Terminator movie. They threw everything they could into that to make it something, and it's bombing horribly. Even Disney, I mean, they can't really do, just because something's got the Disney name on it, it's not going to make tons of money. If you look at their live action stuff, they just, look at Maleficent 2. It's not doing well. You got to actually put a little bit of quality to go with the name nowadays. And The Mandalorian just doesn't have that kind of quality. So no, I'm not that impressed with it. I'm just not. By all means, hate on me at the comment if you like. I am going to give you a little bit to let the people that haven't watched it yet get the spoilers out the way. Then we're going to come back and talk about the big MacGuffin to it. We'll delve into that for a second. Everybody good? Okay. All right, we've seen Yoda across 5 movies. Yay, we love Yoda. We've seen the female Yoda. Yay. Apparently she's got a book that she's fairly major in that she dies in. Spoiler alert. I am not. There's even the doctor that shows up whenever they get the bounty is supposed to be one of the cloners from Kashyyyk. So they're even thinking this may be a Yoda clone because, again, looking at the timeline of this, Yoda's been dead, a couple of years at this point. So yeah, he could even be a clone. Me personally, the way I look at it, I think it's a mistake if it's a Yoda clone. I think it's a mistake if he's Yoda and this female Yoda's kid. They're supposed to be like a magical type race that aren't even named in the movies. I would much prefer it if it was just, Yoda's reproduced by eggs. They happen to find an egg that hatched. This is what they're trying to put together, and the guy wants to actually clone this thing to make a first order version of Yoda. That's what I would much prefer. I would much rather this baby basically be not related to any other Yoda race that we've seen before. Just give me something new. I don't need a retread. I don't need this being Yoda Jr. That's part of the problem with Star Wars. Everything's got to tie back to the Star Wars family. I don't need that. I don't need the Mandalorian being Boba Fett's cousin. I don't need I don't need Action Jackson being kin to Lando Calrissian. I don't need any of this mess. I don't need every bounty hunter that was in Empire Strikes Back showing up in this series. I don't need the IG-88 to be the IG-88 from the movie. No, give me something different. The galaxy is huge. That's one thing about Star Trek. Picard leaves. Next Generation. We don't see him anymore in Deep Space Nine. We don't see the Enterprise at every single battle. We don't have to have Picard dropping by every other season. Picard is in this section of space. DS9's in this section of space. Voyager is on this section of space. I don't need any of this crap. That's kind of part of the reason why I got really tired of Voyager at the end, because Barclay kept showing up. Probably part of the reason what's irritating about the last episode of Enterprise. Riker has to show up with Troy, which is fine and dandy, but I don't need this mess. Please, Star Wars, do that. Make sure, I don't need Mandalorian, let him have his own world, basically. Yes, it's a joint empire just because it's all the same thing, but I don't need him showing up with Jabba Jr. Yes, I saw the Clone Wars, the Clone Wars movie, even in theaters, which was a painful experience. But, I'm just hoping he's not related to Yoda or the female Yoda. Just please, goodness gracious, let's not get into that. I get the feeling that it's not going to be like that. It's going to end up being a clone or the kid, and it's going to really annoy the snot out of me. But hopefully they're smarter than that. But I like to get your feelings. Please make sure you leave a spoiler tag if you're going to make a comment on, if you're going to put something like that in the comments. But like I said, I will be back next Saturday. We will talk about episode 2. I'm going to kind of run these about a week behind just because I kind of hate the recency bias that everything's got to have. It's like, ooh, it premiered last night. Now tomorrow morning it's got to have every 15,000 videos on it. Let's let it breathe a little bit and take a look at it. But again, I hope you enjoyed the video. By all means, like and subscribe. Let me know what's going on with it. Follow me on Twitter, all the good fun stuff. Make sure you hit the website, and I will see you Wednesday.